The night air over Miller's Creek was thick with the hum of crickets and the smell of oil. Earl McCoy wiped his hands on a rag, smearing grease down to his elbows as the old radio beside him crackled out a country tune about heartbreak and horsepower. His garage light buzzed and flickered, the fluorescent bulb dying like everything else in this town. He leaned against the hood of his rusted pickup, cracked open a beer, and stared up at a sky so still it felt like the world was holding its breath. Cletus Rayburn's ancient Ford rumbled up the dirt road, headlights bouncing off the junked cars that lined the drive. He stepped out, denim jacket full of holes, a grin already plastered across his unshaven face. "Earl," he drawled, tossing him a can. "You hear what they said on the radio? Some kind of meteor shower comin' tonight. Government says it's normal. Which means it ain't." Earl smirked, popping the tab. "Government don't know the difference between a cloud and a cow fart. Bet it's nothin'." But when they looked up, the stars were gone, swallowed by a shadow moving without sound. Cletus frowned, the grin slipping. "Well, hell, that's one big meteor." The shadow split into 3 black triangles, lights pulsing along their edges like veins of lightning. The ground trembled. Every dog in Miller's Creek began barking at once. The power went out with a hard snap, plunging the town into darkness. Earl's radio gave one last sputter of static before dying. "You seein' that?" "I ain't blind," Cletus said, stepping closer to the road. "But I'm startin' to wish I was." Over the ridge, a blue-white beam hit the old water tower, vaporizing it in a thunderous blast that shook dust from the rafters. They both ducked as debris rained down. The air filled with the acrid stench of ozone. Earl grabbed his rifle from the truck rack and checked the chamber. "No one drops a bomb on my town and flies off scot-free." "Who says they're flying off?" Cletus pointed to the far field where silver orbs were descending silently, each the size of a car tire, glowing with pale light. When one hit the ground, the grass curled and blackened around it. The 2 men stared for a long moment, then Cletus exhaled. "All right, Earl. I think the government might owe me an apology." At the same time, Sheriff Hank Dobbs was driving through town, siren wailing. He'd been asleep when the first explosion hit, but now the entire sky burned an electric blue. The radio in his cruiser was dead. His phone, too. He passed the diner, windows shattered, the neon sign sparking. People stumbled in the streets, faces lit by the eerie glow above. He slammed on the brakes when he saw the orbs. They'd opened like mechanical flowers, metal limbs unfolding with an insect's precision. One of them rose on 4 segmented legs, its head pivoting toward him. Hank drew his revolver out of instinct, even as his gut told him it wouldn't help. "This is Sheriff Dobbs," he muttered under his breath. "And I don't like uninvited guests." The thing emitted a piercing whine, and a bolt of energy slammed into his cruiser, flipping it sideways. Hank was thrown clear, hitting the dirt hard.
His ears rang.
The alien construct advanced, smooth and silent now, its single red lens fixed on him. Before it could fire again, a deafening boom ripped through the air. Earl's truck barreled out of the smoke, plowing straight into the drone. The creature burst apart in a shower of sparks and metal. Earl leaned out the window. "You okay, Sheriff?" Hank coughed, climbing to his feet. "You boys sure took your time." "Traffic was hell," Cletus called from the passenger seat, holding a shotgun across his knees. More orbs were landing now, dozens of them, then hundreds. Each one unfurling into a nightmare of metal and light. Beams sliced through buildings. People screamed, fled, fired rifles uselessly into the sky. Hank dusted off his hat, eyes narrowing. "This ain't random. They're targeted infrastructure, communications, power, water." "Then we hit back," Earl said. "You know anyone else who can shoot straight?" "Bo Tanner's out by the old farm. He's got them drone things he built. Maybe they'll do more than scare crows this time." "Then let's move." They loaded Hank into the truck and sped through the chaos. The sky was alive with movement, ships hovering just above the treeline, sleek and black, casting shifting patterns of light across the ground. Cletus tossed homemade Molotovs out the window, laughing manically each time one exploded near a drone. Ain't science fiction no more, boys. When they reached Beau's property, they found him already in action. The tall, wiry farmhand was surrounded by a half-dozen of his homemade drones, each made from scavenged parts, lawnmower engines, camera lenses, old antennas. He controlled them with a battered laptop hooked to a car battery. "Thought I was losing my mind," Beau shouted over the noise. "Then one of those metal spiders tried to melt my barn." "Good," Earl said. "Means you're officially in the war." Beau's drones took flight, buzzing toward the nearest invaders. Their rotors screamed as they crashed into alien constructs, detonating small payloads of nails and fertilizer explosives. 2 drones went down in bright flashes. Beau grinned. Guess Redneck Engineering just went interstellar. The aliens didn't retreat. They regrouped, forming tight formations that moved with disturbing coordination. One of the larger ships began emitting a low-frequency hum that made the air vibrate. The sound grew until it was inside their heads, drowning thought. Earl covered his ears. "What the hell is that?" Beau's laptop crackled, every display on it flashing alien symbols. "Signal interference, no. It's not interference. It's control." Cletus fired a shot into the air, shattering the momentary trance. "I say we blow that big, ugly thing straight back to space." They piled into the truck again, floorboards rattling as they tore toward the center of town. The hum intensified, shaking windows, cracking concrete. The ship loomed overhead, a floating fortress of light and shadow. Earl pulled a propane tank from the back, wired with Cletus's custom detonator. Hank gave him a sidelong glance. "You sure about this?" "Not even a little." He slammed the brakes, jumped out, and rolled the tank across the asphalt toward the ship's lowest point. Cletus fired, hitting the tank dead center. The explosion was instant, a rolling inferno that swallowed half the street and licked at the underbelly of the alien craft. It staggered in midair, sputtered, and then steadied itself again. For one breathless second, the entire town was silent. Then a new sound filled the air, a deep, shimmering hum spreading outward in all directions. A translucent wall of light began to rise around the perimeter of Miller's Creek, sealing them inside. The light touched the horizon, curving into a dome. The stars vanished behind it. Earl stared up, jaw tight. "They're not just attacking us," he said. "They're locking us in." Cletus chuckled weakly, staring at the glowing barrier. "Well, Earl, looks like we just got ourselves promoted from small-town folk to endangered species." Earl raised his rifle, eyes glinting in the blue light. "Then we better make extinction hurt." The alien ships above repositioned, their beams cutting through the smoke like blades. The men of Miller's Creek braced for the next wave. None of them spoke. The night had gone quiet again, too quiet, right before the real war began. Dawn crept over Miller's Creek like a dying ember, washing the smoke-stained horizon in dull gold. The air was thick with ash and silence. Power lines drooped across the streets, cars lay overturned, and the once bustling diner sat in ruins. Earl McCoy crouched beside the shattered steps of the town hall, running his thumb along a bullet casing still warm from the night before. He hadn't slept. None of them had. Cletus Rayburn stumbled up beside him, dragging a toolbox and smelling like gasoline. His shirt was half-burned, his beard singed. "Town looks like hell took a lunch break and forgot to clock out." Earl grunted. "Hell came to stay. But I ain't rollin' out the welcome mat." Sheriff Hank Dobbs joined them, his face smeared with soot, eyes sunken but sharp. He held a map of the town, spread it across a dented hood, and weighted the corners with shell casings. "We lost comms, power grid, and most of Main Street. Folks are holed up in basements or gone. But we still got about 50 souls that can shoot straight." Beau Tanner approached, carrying a tangled mess of wires and what looked like a glowing alien battery. "Make that 51.5, if you count this beauty." Pulled it out of one of their drones. Still hums like it's alive. Cletus whistled. "Think it'll charge my truck?" Beau set the device down. "Think it might fry your blood before it charges a headlight. But if I can figure out how it works, maybe we can juice our generators, or better, Our weapons. Earl nodded slowly. Then that's your job, Bo Cletus. You got propane, scrap metal, and too much imagination. Make something nasty. Cletus grinned. You mean Tuesday? They worked through the morning. The men scavenged through garages, wrecked tractors, and burned out houses. Cletus's scrapyard became their base of operations. The smell of oil, rust, and determination hung in the air. He welded together pipes, saw blades, and engine parts, creating weapons that looked half-mad but lethal. He built flamethrowers out of weed sprayers, nail bombs from propane tanks, and even a crude catapult from the bed of a pickup. Earl oversaw every detail, his military training kicking in. He laid out firing zones, fallback routes, and choke points across the town. Every window became a sniper nest, every truck a potential trap. Sheriff Hank coordinated patrols, keeping the survivors focused. Fear was thick, but fear could be shaped into resolve if you kept men busy. By midday, the first alien patrol appeared again, six-legged machines moving through the rubble with eerie grace. Their heads turned, scanning heat signatures. They moved methodically like exterminators. Earl raised his rifle from the rooftop of the old post office. Let's see if the bugs bleed. He fired. The bullets sparked off alien armor but drew their attention. The patrol shifted direction, advancing toward the noise. Earl ducked behind cover. Seconds later, Cletus's trap went off, a pressure switch rigged under a beer can. The explosion tore two drones apart, sending shrapnel through the air. Hot damn! Cletus whooped from the scrapyard. You just stepped in my welcome mat. Bo launched one of his homemade drones into the air. Its buzzing wings carried it high before it dropped a canister filled with nails and fertilizer onto the nearest alien. The resulting explosion flipped the machine onto its back, limbs twitching. The survivors cheered, and for the first time since the invasion began, hope flickered. Hank squinted at the wreckage. They're studying us, same way we're studying them. Don't mistake silence for retreat. Earl nodded. They'll come back smarter next time. We just gotta be meaner. Bo cracked open the damaged alien core. Inside was a pulsating crystal, giving off a low hum. Whatever powers these things ain't nuclear. It's clean energy, beyond anything we got. Maybe I can rig it to our grid. Cletus spat in the dirt. Or maybe it'll blow us to kingdom come. Bo shrugged. Only one way to find out. They carried the crystal to the old firehouse and set it up beside a dead generator. Bo stripped wires, soldered connections, and muttered under his breath. Sparks flew. The lights flickered once, then stayed on. The generator roared to life. The men whooped and clapped each other on the back. But before they could celebrate, a low vibration spread through the ground. Earl's head snapped up. You feel that? The sound grew into a rumble. From the hills came a formation of larger machines, bipedal this time, with armor that shimmered like liquid steel. Each one carried weapons that hummed with restrained energy. Bo's voice dropped. They're adapting. Hank barked orders. Positions. They're comin' in hot. The alien soldiers advanced in perfect formation, firing energy pulses that melted through concrete. Earl and his crew returned fire. Bullets sparked harmlessly off armor, but they didn't stop shooting. Bo redirected one of his drones into a dive bomb, hitting a soldier square in the chest. The explosion threw it back, black smoke pouring from its joints. Cletus's flamethrower roared, bathing another in fire. It screeched, convulsed, and collapsed, its plating glowing red-hot. The humans shouted in triumph, but the moment didn't last. From behind the smoke, more shapes emerged, sleeker, faster, coordinated. Earl ducked behind cover, breath ragged. They ain't just machines. They're learnin'. Hank reloaded his revolver, jaw set. So are we. The fight tore through the afternoon. Every street became a battleground of fire and fury. When the last alien fell, its carapace cracked and leaking blue fluid, the men stood amidst ruins and smoke, chests heaving. The ground was littered with metal and blood. Cletus kicked a twitching limb. That all you got, space bugs? Bo picked through the remains, pulling a shard of glowing circuitry from the rubble. These were scouts, not soldiers. which means the real ones are still up there. Watch it. Earl glanced skyward, where the black triangle ships still hovered silently above the barrier. Then we keep building. We learn faster. We fight dirtier. Hank wiped blood from his cheek, his voice steady. We ain't just defending Miller's Creek anymore. We're defending the species. The men exchanged a look, half fear, half defiance. Around them, smoke curled upward like ghostly fingers, and the sunlight glinted off the twisted metal of the fallen. The air buzzed faintly, not from engines but from energy pulsing somewhere unseen, as if the planet itself was waking up to the threat. Bo stared at the alien shard in his hands, its glow reflecting in his eyes. They think they're the hunters, he murmured. But they don't know what kind of animals they trapped in here. Earl slung his rifle across his shoulder, watching the horizon where the dome shimmered faintly against the blue sky. Then let's show. And what happens when you corner a redneck? The men scattered to their tasks, hammering, welding, and wiring through the night as the stars blinked out one by one behind the invisible wall. Far above them, unseen, something vast stirred within the alien mothership, analyzing their every move. But down below, in the heart of the broken town, mankind's answer was already taking shape, crude, reckless, and unstoppable. Night had settled over Miller's Creek again, heavy and hot, thick with the stink of burnt metal and gasoline. The hum of alien machinery filled the distance, a low vibration that made teeth ache. Earl McCoy crouched behind the ruined church wall, scanning the horizon through a cracked rifle scope. He'd been awake for 30 hours straight, eyes red, nerves wound like wire. The aliens had stopped attacking in waves. Now they hunted, silently, precisely. Cletus Rayburn sat beside him, cleaning the mud off his flamethrower nozzle with a screwdriver. "Ain't it funny," he muttered. "They got ships that can cross galaxies, but they still can't figure out a redneck with a grudge and a lighter." Earl didn't smile. "They're learning. Every move we make, they watch. Every trap we set, they adjust." Bo Tanner's voice came through the radio earpiece, grainy and low. "Movement west of the mill. 6 hostiles, possibly 8. Looks like they're sweeping for heat signatures." Earl replied quietly, "Stay hidden. Let 'em come close." He switched off the radio and raised his rifle. Through the smoke, he could see the faint shimmer of alien optics, dull red glints moving like predator eyes. They waited until the first drone came into view, walking on 4 mechanical limbs, scanning the ruins with that unnerving insect grace. Earl exhaled slowly and squeezed the trigger. The rifle cracked. The bullet hit dead center in its lens, shattering it into a cloud of blue sparks. The thing collapsed without a sound. Instantly, the others opened fire. Beams of energy slashed through the air, slicing into walls and ground. Cletus jumped up, lighting the pilot of his flamethrower. "Light him up, boys." The burst of fire rolled across the street, washing the nearest alien soldiers in liquid flame. They screeched, an unholy sound like twisting steel, and collapsed, their armor melting into slag. Bo's homemade drones dove overhead, their engines whining as they dropped pipe bombs rigged from fertilizer and duct tape. Explosions rippled through the dark, lighting the sky in flashes of orange and blue. For a few glorious seconds, it felt like victory again. Then the counterfire began. From the far hills, a beam struck, so bright it burned a line of white across the ground. The shockwave threw Earl backward. He hit the dirt hard, ears ringing, dust filling his mouth. When he looked up, the church was gone. Nothing but rubble and flame. Cletus was yelling something, voice hoarse through the ringing. Earl dragged himself upright and saw the new machines coming. They weren't like the scouts. These ones were taller, leaner, their armor gleaming with shifting colors, their movements almost human. They advanced in perfect coordination, weapons glowing at their wrists. Bo's voice cut through the static. "They're jamming comms again. Patterns different this time. It's not just blocking us, it's listening." Earl felt the truth of it in his bones. The aliens weren't just adapting, they were evolving mid-fight, rewriting their tactics based on human behavior. They'd gone from exterminators to imitators. He crouched behind a half-broken wall, reloading. They think learnin' makes them smarter. They don't get it, they ain't got our kind of crazy. Cletus grinned, half wild, half mad. Then let's educate him. He ripped the pin from a grenade and lobbed it into a pile of propane tanks. The blast tore through the advancing line, shredding armor, sending burning metal whirling into the air. Sheriff Hank Dobbs appeared from the far alley, dragging 2 wounded men behind him. His leg was bleeding, his face pale, but his voice stayed steady. They're comin' in from every direction. We hold here, or we lose the town. Earl ran to him, helping prop the sheriff against a wall. You shouldn't be on your feet. Town's still standin', ain't it? Hank rasped. Then neither am I. He raised his revolver and fired until the barrel smoked. The firefight stretched deep into the night, a chaos of screaming metal, firelight, and human defiance. Every explosion carved fresh wounds into the streets. When the smoke finally thinned, the ground was littered with alien wrecks and human bodies. Earl moved among the fallen, his boots crunching over debris. Bo stumbled toward him, laptop slung over his shoulder, a gash down his temple. You're gonna want to see this. He opened the screen, showing alien text scrolling by and luminous script. I hacked their comms network. It's not an army, it's an infection. They call it a cleansing unit. Earth's a test run before they move on to bigger targets. Earl frowned. You mean we're just practice? Worse, Bo said. We're contamination. They can't understand us because we don't think like anything they've ever met. Their logic runs on order. Ours runs on, well, this. He gestured toward the burning chaos around them. Earl looked down at the cracked screen, where alien transmissions flared red. Then, let's make the infection spread. Before Bo could answer, a rumble shook the earth. They turned toward the horizon, where the largest ship yet was descending through the clouds, casting a massive shadow across the town. It wasn't just hovering this time. It was landing. The ground split under the pressure wave. Houses crumbled. Firelight flickered across the hull as the alien mothership settled into the valley like a mountain made of steel. Its engines glowed with a cold, pulsing rhythm. Cletus whistled low. Well, boys. Guess the landlord came to collect rent. Hank's breathing grew shallow, his voice weaker now. They're gonna level everything. You've gotta finish this. He grabbed Earl's arm, eyes hard. Don't let this place die for nothing. Earl hesitated, but Hank's grip tightened. Then the sheriff pushed a detonator into his hand. If they take me, I'm taking them with me. A fresh wave of alien soldiers surged from the ship, firing in synchronized bursts. Earl ducked, dragging Hank back. The old sheriff smiled faintly, blood running down his chin. Go, damn it. Earl met his eyes for the last time. Then he turned and ran. The explosion tore through the night, a roaring inferno that swallowed the sheriff and half the alien formation. The blast lit the mothership's hull in a wash of gold and crimson. Bo's voice cracked over the radio. Earl. Hank's gone. Earl's reply was quiet but steady. He knew what he was doing. Now it's on us. They regrouped at the edge of town, what was left of their militia, barely a dozen men. Bo tapped furiously at his laptop, eyes gleaming with exhaustion and fury. Their systems open now. I can feed false commands, make M turn on each other. But once I do, they'll trace it right back here. Earl loaded his rifle, chambers snapping shut. Then let M come. We've been waitin' on guests. Bo hit the key. Across the valley, alien soldiers froze mid-step. Their optics flickered, turning from blue to red. Then they began firing, not at the humans but at each other. The mothership's defense systems lit up, targeting its own troops. Beams of energy lanced the ground, ripping through alien ranks. Cletus hooped, slapping Earl on the back. Look at him, panic. Ain't nothin' scarier than. The rain had stopped by morning, leaving the town of Havers Creek wrapped in mist and gunpowder. The air hummed faintly, still charged from whatever alien force had ripped through the place the night before. Where the invaders' ship once stood, a crater now smoked, metal warped and glowing like lava. Around it, the rednecks of Havers Creek, mud-streaked, armed and sleepless, stood like men who had fought death and lived to mock it. Ray kicked at a half-melted alien helmet. "Reckon that's the last of 'em?" he muttered. Buck spat a long arc into the ash. "Hell no. You ever see a hunt end that clean? They're regrouping." Cooper adjusted his hat and surveyed the wreckage. "Well, they picked the wrong damn town. We ain't done till their big fancy mothership comes down too." The men didn't laugh this time. They'd seen enough to know the stakes. The night before, the aliens' technology had shredded cars, burned barns, and knocked out half the valley's power. But Havers Creek hadn't gone quietly. What the aliens didn't expect was how mean, how stubborn, and how resourceful a handful of rednecks could be when cornered. They'd fought with shotguns, hunting rifles, chainsaws, and improvised explosives. They'd learned, fast, that alien armor melted when hit with moonshine-fueled firebombs. They'd found that their energy shields couldn't handle swamp mud shorting out their circuits. And they discovered that the so-called advanced invaders panicked when things didn't go according to plan. By dawn, the aliens' ranks had broken. The survivors fled into the forest, the same one the townsfolk had hunted in since they were kids. Ray lit a cigarette. "So what's next?" "We track 'em." "Damn right," said Buck. "They came here to wipe us out. We finish it." They moved through the mist, their boots sinking into damp earth, following scorch marks and crushed ferns. The forest was silent except for the hum of alien machinery somewhere ahead. Then came the smell, ozone, sharp and unnatural. The trail led them to a clearing where 3 aliens stood over a control beacon, its lights flickering. They looked wounded, their armor dented and burned. One of them was trying to repair the beacon with trembling hands. Cooper motioned to the others. "Hold fire." He crept closer, then called out, "Hey, E.T., you lost something?" The aliens spun, weapons raised, their translator devices crackling. One hissed something unintelligible. Ray raised his rifle. "Last chance to pack up and leave our planet." The alien barked another command and fired. A searing bolt of blue energy lanced through the air, scorching a tree beside Ray's head. That was all the excuse Buck needed. The clearing exploded in gunfire. The aliens' shields flared, flickered, then collapsed under a barrage of lead and grit. Buck's shotgun roared, tearing through armor. Cooper's rifle cracked once, dropping the last alien before it could crawl away. Silence. Only the beacon remained, still pulsing faintly. Ray stepped forward, kneeling beside it. "Think this is how they call for backup? Or maybe it's their way home," Cooper said. "Either way, we can't let it work." He aimed and fired, but the bullet ricocheted off harmlessly. "Damn thing's tougher than it looks." Buck scratched his beard. "Maybe we don't destroy it. Maybe we use it." The others turned to him. "Think about it," Buck said. "They wanted to wipe us out?
Fine.
Let's return the favor. We've seen their tech, their weapons, how they move. We rig this thing, send it back with a little Havers Creek hospitality." Cooper's grin was slow and dangerous. "You mean blow their mothership sky high?" "Yup." They dragged the beacon back to town, jury-rigged it in the garage next to Ray's old truck, and worked for hours. They stripped alien batteries, wired them to car engines, and filled a fuel drum with a mix of fertilizer and high-proof liquor. The plan was simple. When the aliens called for retrieval, they'd get a delivery from the most pissed-off humans in the galaxy. As evening fell, the beacon flared brighter, emitting a low hum. A portal began to open above the crater, massive, swirling, and filled with cold light.
"This is it," Cooper said.
"Once it opens, we send the payload." The portal widened, and the outline of the alien mothership appeared, sleek, black, and pulsing with energy. From below, Havers Creek's men stared up at it, a mix of awe and fury in their eyes. Ray tightened his grip on the detonator.
"For Havers Creek," he said.
"For Earth," Buck added. The truck roared to life, engine screaming as it hurtled into the beam. The light swallowed it whole, the beacon following close behind. For a moment, there was silence, then a blinding flash tore through the sky. The mothership shuddered. Explosions rippled across its surface like fireworks. Then, with a final, deafening roar, it disintegrated, pieces raining down like molten stars. The portal collapsed. The light faded. For a long time, no one spoke. Then Ray laughed, ragged, disbelieving. Guess they learned not to mess with rednecks. Buck dropped onto the ground, exhausted. Ain't no alien tech in the universe can handle Havers Creek ingenuity. Cooper looked up at the smoking sky, his voice low but steady. Maybe now they'll think twice before poking Earth again. The wind carried away the last of the smoke, revealing stars overhead, peaceful, silent, and distant. The war, for now, was over. But deep in the woods, where the beacon had once stood, a faint blue spark still pulsed beneath the soil. It waited. And the men of Havers Creek? They'd be ready.